station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in every morning. It seems like we're talking about the presidential candidates. And one thing that is remarkable in the truest definition of that word, remarkable, is that we have the name Bush and the name Clinton in the lineups. And that's remarkable because how many years ago did we have a Bush and a Clinton up against each other? Just two different Bush and a different Clinton, right? But it is an interesting phenomenon. It would be interesting to see what would happen if somebody with the name of Roosevelt, for example, was running, or somebody with the name of Washington, or Kennedy. If a Kennedy was running, would the name itself, especially if it wasn't just a name, but an actual connection, a family connection to the other Kennedys that we've known, or the other Rockefellers, for example. We have on the phone a guest who's been with us before, Stephen Hess. One of the coolest things in his bio, well, to us anyway, I don't know if he thinks it is, he served on the White House staff during the Eisenhower and Nixon presidency, so he knows what it's like to be in the White House. Yes, he knows which bathrooms you don't have to jiggle the toilet. Do you think they have that problem in the White House?
Yes, I do.
The toilet needs to be jiggled.
Yep, there's always something that happens in commodes.
Stephen also served as an advisor to Presidents Ford and Carter. He's one of the foremost authorities on media and government in the United States. He's a senior fellow emeritus in governance studies at the Brookings Institution and a best-selling author. Today he's talking about his book titled America's Political Dynasties from Adams to Clinton. And let's just say good morning to Stephen Hess. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, Larry. I thought we were going to spend the whole morning just describing who I am. Hey, let's.
Yeah, well, that happens when you have a large list of credentials. So that's I get carried away.
Today I'll tell you about West Wing bathrooms. So today we'll talk about that.
Do you know what I wanted to ask you though? Well, first of all, where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from my home in Washington D.C., the nation's capital.
Oh, you really love this stuff, don't you?
I do.
So why you started Adams, not Washington?
Washington didn't have any kids, if we're talking about George Washington.
Yeah, okay, so there was no dynasty in his case.
No dynasties around. We didn't have a dynasty till the Adamses. Remember John Adams and his wife Abigail. They're a chapter in my book, and they had a son named John Quincy.
Right.
Named president, too. It's interesting because they had two other sons, and the two other sons became alcoholics. So we think it's pretty great to have a famous father or a famous mother, but it can be pretty hairy, too, at the same time.
Really?
And in fact, John Quincy Adams, would be the second Adams president, he had a son who was a very sad suicide. So it's a stress as well. You get the assets and you get the liabilities in all of these families.
So in doing your research, did you uncover a theory like why do dynasties happen? Is it because we, the public, we when we adore somebody, we want more of that person, and we think that their children or their cousins or somebody with the same last name is going to deliver what the other guy did?
Well, if you buy Ivory soap, why do you continue to buy Ivory soap? It's a brand name. It's good. After a while, maybe you don't like it, and you switch to something else. So we have free elections. Anybody can run. If your daddy happens to be a baker, the odds are greater that you'll be a baker than you'll be a welder. So there is something about the family business. But the thing is, while we're always going to have dynasties, because as I say, we have free elections, and a lot of people want to run. These are good jobs. At the same time, they're not always going to be the same dynasties. So dynasties are born and dynasties die. And, I did this book, which has 16 different dynasties in it, and it's pretty obvious why some of these folks want to be in politics or want to follow their father or their mother. It's they're ambitious, they're egotistical, maybe they're idealistic, they're patriotic. All of these things can contribute to it. But the reasons that dynasties fail I have found in writing this book are very interesting, and they're all different. Take the Adamses that we're talking about. Had two presidents, and after third generation, it really went out of the business. And one of the reasons it went out of the business, remember this is early American history, was the Adamses were really very unpleasant people. They were flinty, they had no social graces, and after a while, as the electorate got larger, hey, they didn't really want these sorts of people as their candidates running for office. And another strange reason the Adamses got out of business by the fourth generation, they were really pretty poor for three generations. That is, they were farmers and so forth. And the fourth generation, Charles Francis, married the daughter of the richest man in Boston. So suddenly they had money, and then in the next generation, the generation that we think of as Henry Adams, a great writer, he had a lot of options. He didn't have to go into politics, and he could go into anything he wanted, so he became a writer. So there are all sorts of different reasons. You know, the next family in the book after the Adamses are called the Livingstons. Mm-hmm. They were incredibly rich. They lived upstate New York on their manor and their estates and all of that thing, but they were very important in the colonial period. And then after a while, they thought, you know, we really don't want to appeal to the riffraff who were the electorate. So there were the Adamses stopped being a dynasty because they were rejected by the populace, and the Livingstons stopped being a dynasty because they rejected the populace.
Okay, but
so there are all sorts of different reasons that people go in and out of politics.
But would they in order to be a dynasty, do you have to have at least one member of that name that was a president?
No, heavens no.
No.
That only applies to maybe 5 of the 16 chapters.
Oh, okay.
So, in other words, my definition, very simple, is you have to have been in elective politics, being elected in elected politics and national elected politics for 3 generations. So there's the irony of adding the Clintons and the Bushes. The Bushes are a dynasty by my definition, but they keep denying that they're a dynasty. The Clintons are not a dynasty, but they sure would love to be a dynasty. In other words, you don't be a dynasty if you're just a husband and wife.
In Hillary's case, she wouldn't be another generation. Just be.
Obviously, I got to have a chapter on Hillary if I want to, and Bill if I want to sell the book. So I've got to say what exactly are the Clintons that are so interesting? And I conclude after thinking about it a while is they're not a dynasty, but they're a partnership. And you go right back to when they were together in Yale Law School, and you see how they formed a partnership. And that's pretty interesting in American politics, too. You know, occasionally there are these great partnerships. Abigail and John Adams would have been one, Eleanor and Franklin Roosevelt. But they're rare, too. So that's really what the Clintons will not be. In fact, I say almost the opening line of my Clinton chapter is it's now 2040, the first year in which their granddaughter can run for federal office, because she'll be 25. Well, if she gets elected, by the way, not only will she have maternal grandparents who are both pretty powerful, but her paternal grandparents were both in Congress. So at that point, the Clintons really become a dynasty, although they become what I call a mix and match dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Really two
yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But it really amazes me how the people that want to build themselves up to the dynasty, like the Clintons, they tried to emulate like John F. Kennedy and Jackie, you know, through their mannerisms, through even the pearls that Hillary Clinton was wearing, and yet they seek out their descendants and try to associate themselves, like with Caroline Kennedy and Maria Shriver, people of that nature.
Well, of course, important point you make. They intermarry. So you take a look at the Kennedys, and one married a movie star named Schwarzenegger, another married a governor of New York named Cuomo. So there, you start examining these families, and the lines cross in all sorts of interesting ways. But again, I got to stress that when you look at all of the 12,000 people who have been elected to the United States Congress, we're only talking about 6%. So sometimes we get overwhelmed at the moment, as you pointed out initially, we do, because the Clintons and the Bushes have been with us for so long, but we're really talking about a very select and special group of Americans that apparently other Americans want to put in office because they're voted in.
Stephen, hang in there. We got to take a little break. We'll be right back. This is a fascinating topic. Stephen Hess, when we return, America's Political Dynasties.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Friday will be mostly cloudy with a couple of showers around through the morning and early afternoon hours. Breezy and turning cooler with temperatures in the upper 60s to upper 70s around the area. Clearing tonight and turning colder. Lows ranging from the upper 30s and low 40s well inland to the mid-50s along the coast. For tomorrow, mostly sunny and breezy with highs ranging from the mid-60s to the lower 70s. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Concerned with increasing theft of packages left at residential locations? Primarily scumbags taking quality merchandise from honest, hardworking people. Obviously, most folks don't want to rent a private mailbox, but they do want options. After contemplating the Ratifications Personal Service Center at 2375 Northeast 25th Avenue will have a new service, simply called Package Receiving. For a small fee, Personal Service Center will receive packages on behalf of local residents. The postmaster has approved the service. Questions call 789-6683. Personal Service Center, 789-6683.
Are you in need of custom screen printing, embroidery, or promotional items? Then look no further and come visit the brand new Legacy Team Sales. LTS is conveniently located off 17th Street next to Armstrong Homes in beautiful Ocala. We offer the best prices and highest quality products for your company, team, school, or nonprofit. Whether looking for screen printed shirts, embroidered polos, or travel team uniforms, Team Sales. Come visit our new 27,000 square foot facility. Our friendly and knowledgeable sales staff will assist you in every part of your custom purchase. LTS carries the hottest brands in the industry like Under Armour, Russell, Mizuno, Asics, Badger Sports, Gildan, Pacific, Ogio, and many more. At LTS, screen printing embroidery is done in-house and we guarantee customer satisfaction. Stop by, give us a call, or check us out on the web at shoplts.com. Remember the name, LTS.
Ooh, ouch. Does pain have you glued to the couch? Yes, unfortunately it's true that every year we must get older, but that doesn't mean we have to deal with pain in our back, knees, or shoulder. If your muscles and joints are sore, don't worry anymore. Come get acupuncture from me and you'll be pain-free. Acupuncture starts as low as $35 at a Better You Healthcare. Call me, Dr. Erica Olstein, at 615-5566. Stop your pain from driving you insane.
One of the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking: will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Cozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
All right, 12 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You know, one of the things that occurred to me during the break was this, that if you are part of a dynasty like Jeb Bush is, do you feel like, well, he, of course, was governor of our state, so he got into politics. But, I mean, do you feel obligated to get into politics because of that? And do you feel, let's see, not like a loser, but I mean, do you feel like you've let your family down if you don't win? Because he doesn't look like he's doing too well in the polls.
No.
So I don't know. Stephen, what do you think about that? When you have a family member who says, okay, I'm going to follow in the other members' steps in my dynasty, even though they don't claim they have a dynasty.
Keep pressure on them, isn't it? Yeah. The interesting part about the Bushes, unusual, is that every one of them have lost at least one election before they finally won. So they are fighters. They're persistent. They're going to stick with it. And that is particularly interesting because they're all pretty rich. I mean, they could go and buy another baseball team or find an oil well, but instead they go right back into running for office again. And you're right. Jeb is having a hard time now, but he's got a son who is the land commissioner, elected office in Texas, another pretty important state. And moreover, of course, has a mother who is a Mexican American. So he's got a lot of things going for him if he ever runs for higher office in Texas. And then just even watching Jeb's campaign, the younger son, Jeb Jr., they've now put in charge of the millennial generation and the youth vote, and he's getting very high marks. So I have a hunch that he's got some interest in running in the future in Florida, his home state. So you can't count out the Bushes. They've got it. They've just got it in their blood.
Are the dynasties divided with as far as political party? Do we have as many Republican dynasties as we do Democratic dynasties?
It's interesting because they really do divide down the middle. It doesn't become a Democratic trait or Republican. Hey, take the Roosevelts. Teddy Roosevelt, Republican. Franklin Roosevelt, Democrat. By the way, the Roosevelts are interesting in this regard. It tells us something about dynasties. Because the question you ask is, of course, what does it mean for their children? Do they have a step up? And I tend to think, after been studying this thing for 50 years, that a great name is worth one step up the political ladder. Now, if you're in Congress, maybe that step up is for your son or your daughter would have been the state legislature or the city council. If you're president, like Franklin Roosevelt was, the step up for his sons would have been the U.S. House of Representatives. So he has two sons who want to do that. One gets a safe seat to run for Congress from California. Another gets a safe seat to run for Congress from New York. They both get elected. And then both of them then seek higher office, and both of them get defeated. So to me, it tells me that this dynasty stuff is worth one step up on the ladder, and then hey, the voters look at you and you're on your own.
Okay, so it's not a ticket. Like for example, I've often thought, now this is not political in nature, but in show business, for example, you would have thought that Frank Sinatra Jr. would have been as big of a star as his dad, or John Lennon's sons, but they don't. They so.
Why don't you just quote sports too? Hey, same thing in professional sports.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But politics is a different animal because you don't vote with money. I guess for example, Sinatra Jr. Mm-hmm. For him to have been as big as his dad, we would have had to have gone and buy his records.
Right.
So I guess you're saying it's the same principle that I stated in politics. It was worth one step up. The name sure got him good things. And then, hey, he wasn't going to be anything like Sinatra Sr., and he was on his own. So that tends to be, I think, the way it works. Now, a lot, of course, has to do with the mother's genes too. You talk about family, and what I'm writing really is about a family history of American politics. You're talking not only about the men, usually it was the men who got elected, at least till the women got a vote in 1920, but the women in my book are absolutely fascinating. And they have contributed their genes to this. And another thing they've contributed is often their money. It is incredible how many of these politicians, successful politicians, marry women who are heiresses, who come from rich families. For example, we've got a congressman right now from New Jersey called Frelinghuysen, Rodney Frelinghuysen. He's the sixth of his family who's been in Congress, all from the same district, basically in New Jersey, where you go back a couple generations, grandfather, great-father, and he marries a woman named Ballantyne. Well, if you've heard of Ballantyne ale, Ballantyne beer, that's the Ballantyne. And then the next generation, he marries a woman named Havemeyer. Well, maybe you need a little research on that, but it's the Havemeyer Sugar Trust. They control the sugar of the United States.
Oh, wow.
Then the next generation, he marries a woman named Proctor. Well, it happens to be Proctor of Procter and Gamble. So you see a lot of that going on when you study these dynasties as well, and it's fascinating.
And also, too, that pertains to John F. Kennedy. He and Grace Kelly were having a relationship, but that was squashed by JFK's dad because JFK wouldn't, even though her dad had money and everything from his empire, JFK's dad told him that you're not going out with her or being involved because her dad worked with his hands. I mean, he was a bricklayer. So he, kind of guided that to somewhere else.
That story that ain't in my book, but I sure could tell you that John F. Kennedy didn't do badly with Jacqueline Beauvoir, did he? So things worked out well for the Kennedys. But that's an interesting case because that's an example of a founding father. That's Joseph Kennedy Sr. declaring that, by golly, he's going to make one of his sons president of the United States. That son gets killed in World War II, so then it goes on to the second son, and he, Jack Kennedy, of course, does become president. So you see in tracing these dynasties, some of them have these very powerful fathers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And others don't. You take the Longs of Louisiana. Well, there's no founding father. They were incredibly poor. They came from the poorest parish in Louisiana. It was said in Wynn County that people made a living by taking in each other's wash. There was no money there at all. But Huey Long struggled and was brilliant in his own political ways, and then all of his family wanted to come along. They grabbed onto it because of him, not because he wanted to have his son and his grandson and so forth succeed him in politics.
Fascinating. The book is called America's Political Dynasties, From Adams to Clinton. It is written by our guest, Stephen Hess. Tell me about the lodges. I never heard about who are the lodges?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the lodges are in the book largely because they keep crossing the Kennedys. It was so interesting to write about the Kennedys without writing about the lodges. There are really two great lodges, Henry Cabot Lodge Sr. and Henry Cabot Lodge Jr. Henry Cabot Lodge Sr. Was more responsible for the election of Theodore Roosevelt, but nevertheless he ran against Jack Kennedy's grandfather, whose name was Fitzgerald, and then Jack Kennedy himself ran again and was elected by beating Senator Henry Cabot Lodge Jr. So part of it is the fun of tracing these families as they cross each other, just, of course, as you started our conversation, by the Bushes and the Clintons crossing each other. So that really explains how I got to the chapter about the lodges.
And is Cabot Lodge the hotel chain? Is that the same Cabot Lodge?
I don't know.
Or was that just a play on the name?
Yeah, I think that's just
okay.
Okay. Actually, the Cabots were the really old family. The Lodges were relatively new by Massachusetts standards, and that was again the interesting part about the Lodges. When Henry Cabot Lodge got elected to Congress, it wasn't that there had been so many lodges in Congress, but that there were so many people related to the lodges in Congress. So they had about 9 collateral ancestors who had been in Congress.
For somebody like me, a lot of this would be new and surprising, but for somebody like you, I'm guessing some of this was already part of your knowledge. Was there anything, in doing the research, was there anything that struck you as, gosh, I didn't know that?
Lots of it. In fact, that's the way I started the research. I started the research back in 1957.
Whoa.
I was in the United States Army, stationed in outside Frankfurt, Germany. It was peacetime Army. I was bored. I went to the library to get a book, and I found this great big fat book called the Biographical Directory of the American Congress. Had everybody a biographical sketch of everybody who had been in Congress since 1774. It weighed 7.5 pounds, and I sort of skimmed through it. I'd been a political science major in college. I thought I knew something, smart guy. I found these families I'd never heard of, going on from generation after generation. The Muhlenbergs of Pennsylvania, the Bayards of Delaware, the Stocktons of New Jersey, even one family called the Washburns, who came from Maine. A man was a bankrupt shopkeeper, in fact. He had 4 sons who were all elected to Congress from 4 different states: Maine, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. And hey, this is fascinating stuff. So I started in the evenings to write these little genealogical charts. When I left the Army in 1958, I should say, by the way, I was replaced by Elvis Presley. That's true. His unit replaced my unit.
Oh, wow.
I got home and I said, someday I'm going to write this book. Someday I'm going to have enough money so that I can stand back for research this book. And that's it. But it was done not because of the Roosevelts and the Adamses and the Tafts, and there weren't any Kennedys then, but because of all these families that I never heard of, so I assume most Americans never heard of.
Right.
Well, and they were interesting. They were fun. And I was telling Americans, I thought, if you read the book, something that they weren't about to learn in high school or college. I hadn't.
This is fascinating stuff. I know that we have an audience that loves political stuff, so this is right up their alley. The book is called America's Political Dynasties. Stephen Hess is the author. His name is Stephen Hess, like the gas station. Stephen...
he's a dynasty.
Oh, yeah, you're a dynasty. I want to make sure that the listeners know how to get the book.
That's right. Whenever in Northern California, famous Hess wine, too. I go into the winery and
really?
don't I get a free bottle? And the guy said, hey, you're the sixth.
Steve, we've got 10 seconds. What, is the book on Amazon and all the other bookstores?
The book is certainly on Amazon. In fact, I like it when people buy the book on Amazon. I got no stock in Amazon. I'm not promoting it. But if you buy the book on Amazon, you can write a little review of the book. And so that I see what people really think of the book. I get a kick out of that.
Stephen, thank you so much. Definitely come back. We'll be right back. This is WOCA Ocala.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. The House approving the $1.1 trillion spending plan.
On this vote, the yeas are 316, the nays are 113.
The bill to keep government funding going through next September. Senate approval and President Obama's signature expected later today. Enrique Marquez facing charges of conspiracy and buying the rifles used in this month's deadly San Bernardino attacks.
Farouk and his wife, Tashfeen Malik, the two responsible for the terrorist attack, died in a shootout afterwards with police. Marquez met Farouk in 2005 when he moved in next door to him in California. The FBI says Marquez converted to Islam after being introduced to the religion by Farouk and later became radicalized by him.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. Federal health officials are proposing a ban on the use of tanning beds for anyone under age 18, part of an ongoing effort to reduce skin cancers caused by the devices. Fox News. We report, you decide.
And now, a touching moment while staying in touch with Geico.
Just the other night, as I gazed up into the sky, I saw a shooting star. In that moment, I made a wish that Geico would be available 24/7, by phone, on the web, or with the Geico app. After that, I realized my wish had already come true. So basically, I had just wasted a perfectly good wish. Then I started to think about dolphins and felt better right away.
Geico. Anywhere, anytime.
Ho, ho, hole in one. The Golfsmith Gift Pros here with another gift-giving lesson. Here's a letter from Sylvia. Dear Gift Pros, what should I get my husband for Golfmas? Sylvia, how about a new set of clubs? With a qualifying purchase of Callaway XR irons or woods, you'll get a free gift card valued at up to $150. Ask one of our experts for details. And remember to swing your credit card with one fluid motion. For more gift-giving tips, go to Golfsmith or golfsmith.com. Anything for golf.
It's time for Farm and Ranch headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyron Spearman reporting. The National Cotton Council and cotton farmers have been working with leaders in Washington to ask the Secretary to use his authority granted in the 2014 Farm Bill to designate cottonseed as an other oilseed. The chairman of the Cotton Council, Sledge Taylor of Mississippi, said, "We're extremely grateful to Representatives Conaway and Peterson for leading the charge in this effort." The representative letter said that lower prices for cotton lint and cotton seed contributed to a decline in the average market revenue of more than $150 per harvested acre in 2014 compared to 2013. The current expectation for prices and yields indicate that the market revenue will decline even further by another $24 per acre in 2015, resulting in cotton revenues 25% lower than the average market returns for 2010 through 2013. Taylor said the designation for cottonseed to be covered either under the law's PLC, that's the price loss coverage, or the ARC, agricultural risk coverage programs, for the purpose of a farm safety net participation. He said that would provide much needed stability to the U.S. cotton industry. Earlier, state, regional, and national letters have been sent to Secretary of Agriculture, and all noted that it is imperative that actions be taken that can have a stabilizing effect on the U.S. cotton industry for next year.
We are farmers. We are all-day long doers. Agriculture isn't just our industry, it's our way of life. We invest in equipment that's long-lasting, economical, and environmentally conscious, because that's what it takes to do the job right. We're all about greater horsepower and cleaner emissions, new implements, more attachments, better technology, and dependable engineering. For all your ag equipment needs, we are Kubota.
I'm Tyron Spearman for Southeast AgNet.
You're listening to the John Deere Livestock Radio Network.
This week I'm talking to Mike Hauger and Jason Thomas from John Deere about how to keep your loader tractor operating at peak performance all winter long. Now, Jason, how important is tire pressure to loader performance?
Keeping your tire pressure to the right level, especially with your loader, are very important. And during the winter months, you might experience some lower pressures in your tire. So it's always a good practice to check that PSI and to make sure it's operating in the requirements outlined in your operator's manual.
Mike, you have a simple operating tip for extending loader life.
As you lower that bucket down to the concrete floor there, simply push your multifunction control lever all the way forward. It's going to reduce the down pressure, and it's going to reduce the wear on your cutting edge of your bucket.
And what if you're looking for a performance upgrade for especially rough applications?
There's an option on John Deere loaders, industry exclusive. It's called the Loader Suspension System. And this system allows the loader, it's a nitrogen-filled accumulator that basically acts as a shock absorber as you go over those rough terrain. It hooks up into the hydraulic system, and it's going to extend the life of your loader wear pins and bushings. Remember to refer to your operator's manual for more helpful tips, or visit your dealer to discover more ways to boost your loader's productivity.
Well, that's all for this week. Join me again next week when I'll have more performance tips on the John Deere Livestock Radio Network.
There's a fever going around.
Green fever.
And it can save you some serious green.
Cash money, that is.
On the tractors and equipment that made green famous.
That you'll find at your John Deere dealer.
Where there's big savings.
Financing for as little as 0% interest.
Increase your savings by going to greenfever.com/coupon.
Then go to your John Deere dealer during the Green Fever sales event.
Offer ends February 1st, 2016, subject to approved installment credit with John Deere Financial. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
A very happy Christmas to everyone.
Laura Burns with Career Source Citrus Levy Marion, wishing you a very Merry Christmas and